Chapter 13. No takebacks. Jax and Naomi exited the diner and headed off toward Hasim's. According to the mapping app on Jax's G-phone, they had a 20-minute walk ahead of them. The sun was high overhead, and the temperature just shy of uncomfortable. Jax wiped his brow. How is this place so muddy and so damn hot? He smacked the back of his neck. When he moved his hand, he looked at the dead something crushed there. Gross! Naomi shrugged. Human-computer hybrid experiment, not a climatologist. Jax looked at her. Wouldn't that be a meteorologist? No, dummy. Meteorology is weather. She tutted as she kept walking. Jax tapped his earpiece. Skip, you all there? Naomi heard the call in her earpiece. Yeah, boss. Good to hear from you. Everything okay? Before Jax could answer, Rudy added, Good to hear your voice. Jax smiled. Back at you, buddy. Everything okay there? Corey answered. She sounded winded. Oh, killing time. We found your old dartboard. I can't believe you kept that thing. Naomi looked at Jax as they waited at a crosswalk. Most of the ground and hover cars were older models, likely exported from the Corps shortly after the war settled down. Jax smiled. Memento. Anyway, listen, I think we have a problem. He looked up and down the street. No other pedestrians nearby. I think we got played. I think we stole that ore from a bunch of small operations as part of a plan to pressure them to sell to a syndicate. Steve asked, What? How? Come again? Corey added. Naomi answered, We found a source for local gossip. She was pretty sure. Well, damn, Corey said. What now? Rudy asked. Before Jax could answer, Skip cut back in. Oh, before you answer, we picked up an Imperial ship in orbit. Not a big one, but probably should factor into whatever plan you're cooking up, boss. Jax groaned. Great. The light changed, and he and Naomi crossed the street. They were entering what must be part of Salma's luxury shopping district. Several storefronts were advertising high-end clothing and home goods. Obviously, we can't let our clients have the ore. Obviously, Steve repeated. They paid us. We did the job. I get you're not thrilled that he lied to you and all, but what's the problem? We have a timetable. Corey needs to get back to work, and Marshall will be waiting for me. Plus, we barely pulled off stealing this stuff once. Now you want to, what, put it back? Over the line, the sound of Steve yelping came through loud and clear. Corey said, So what's the plan? The client's representatives will be here in... She trailed off, likely looking at the time display on her G-phone. 7 hours, just past sundown. Jax looked in a store as they passed. It was a technology store. Latest model G-phones and tablets, home security rigs, and more. I'll think of something. Just keep your eyes and sensors open. Now that we know who we're dealing with, assume simply paying us and being on their way isn't the plan. I'm guessing it's either a setup or we're not supposed to survive the pickup. Steve and Corey looked at each other, then turned, making slow turns, taking in their current setting. The valley that up until then had seemed like an excellent place to avoid detection now looked like a great place to ambush the crew of the Osprey. Corey tapped her earpiece. Baxter, you heard all that? Of course, the combat droid replied. I'm thinking it might not be a bad idea if you patrol the area a bit more. I'm looking at these valley walls and thinking we're in a distinctly high ground free situation. Agreed. The channel closed. Nice afternoon stroll. Jax looked at the technology store again and turned to Naomi. I have an idea. Kind of. She raised an eyebrow. It's kind of an idea? He shrugged. I guess, to be clear, it's definitely part of an idea. Whether it's good or bad hasn't been determined. But we're about to determine, aren't we? He pressed the button to open the sliding doors. You wanted a partnership. He grinned and walked in. The store was not very busy, but it wasn't empty. The lone salesman was helping a moderately well-dressed couple. He looked up. "I'll be right with you, folks." He smiled and turned his attention back to the couple. "Where was I? Oh, so you'll definitely want the BFG 9000 on an auto-tracking base? Somewhere kind of central to your property and main gate? You'll get the most protection out of a single unit that way." Jax guided Naomi to a wall of tablets. She looked at the display. "Need a new tablet?" He shook his head. "No. Think you can do your," he held up a hand, fingers wiggling, "thing on these to make a call to the Imperial garrison?" "You want to call in the Imperials?" Both of her eyes looked like they might pop out of her head. Determination made. This is a bad idea. Jax just stared at her, then said, "Got a better one?" She was silent as she looked at the wall of tablets. She looked at Jax out of the corner of her eye. "Nope. Cover me." He turned slightly to keep an eye on the salesman. Naomi picked one of the lowest-cost tablets. "Crappier firmware and likely no firewall. It's always those with the least who get screwed," she mumbled as she gingerly examined the device. She wrapped both hands around the sides of the device. Immediately, her arms began to glow their now familiar blue from fingertip to wrist. She had rolled down the sleeves of her jumpsuit to help keep the glowing tattoos from attracting attention. The tablet's screen came to life, first the graphical user interface, then a black screen with lines of code. She looked at Jax. Reaching up, she tapped his earpiece. "Hello?" Jax heard over the line. It wasn't any of his friends back at the Osprey. He looked at Naomi. She made a hurry-up motion. Hi. I've got information on the stolen ore modules." "Sir, this line is for emergency use only," the bored-sounding Imperial said. "Asshole, are you listening?" Jax ground out. "I said I know where the stolen ore is and who stole it." "Sir, if you don't show a little more respect, I'll have to dispatch shock troopers." Jax sighed and rubbed his face. "Look, man, the ore modules are sitting a dozen or so kilometers outside town. Want to know where or not?" "Please hold." Before Jax could respond, the bored-sounding man was replaced with an inane instrumental version of a song that was popular a year or two ago. Without warning, the line went dead. Jax looked around to see Naomi placing the tablet back on its display shelf. The couple who had been with the salesman were exiting the store. The salesman was approaching. Rubbing his hands together, he said, "Hi, folks, sorry for the wait. What can I help you with?" He looked at the wall of tablets. "Looking to upgrade, or—" Jax turned, smiling. "Oh, sorry, no, we're just window shopping." As if to further explain, he subtly gestured to his jumpsuit, then Naomi's. The man's face fell. His reply was frosty. "I see. Well, please try not to touch everything. I have to clean it all before closing." He turned and walked away. "Rude," Naomi whispered. Jax nodded. She looked at him. "Didn't sound like it went well." He shook his head. "No, we'll have to try again." He looked at the salesman, who was not at all subtly watching them. "Somewhere else." He headed for the door, Naomi in tow. Company is coming. "We have company," Baxter said over the shared comm channel. Corey and Steve were on the small bridge with Rudy. They looked at each other, then at a display showing Baxter's relative position to the Osprey. Corey said, "What's up?" To keep their power signature hard to spot, Skip had turned off the environmental regulator. It was hot aboard the small ship. Corey's skin glistened a deep ebony. She looked at her phone. Still 5 hours from the scheduled meet with the client. "I'm picking up 2, what looks like troop transports," the combat droid replied. "Imperial?" Steve asked, his own much paler skin glistening with sweat. "Impossible to say yet, but I don't think so. Sending visual data to Skip. He might be able to run it through the recognition database." "On it," the ship's SI replied. Less than a minute later, he added, "Yeah, probably not Imperial. Looks like older models. Maybe a year or two post-war." "So probably our friends?" Corey surmised. "As good a guess as any," Baxter replied. "What do you want me to do?" Corey looked at the terrain display again, seeing where Baxter was. Skip had updated it to show the current vector of the two transports. "Keep patrolling, and mark where those transports land. Stay out of sight." "Copy." The channel closed. Steve looked at the woman next to him, his brow beaded with sweat. He tapped his earpiece. "Jax?" "Go ahead," Jack said. He and Naomi were just outside their destination, Hasim's Pleasure Rentals, a squat cinder block building with large roll-up garage doors along one entire face of the building. All manner of vehicles were parked outside the building. Hover bikes, gliders, some kind of stilted thing with 4 articulated legs, a 2-meter diameter wheel with a seat balanced in the center, and more. "I think our client is getting set up for whatever bad things they have planned for us." "Shit, okay. We'll be there shortly, I think." "You think?" Steve asked. "See you soon." Jax tapped his earpiece, closing the channel. He looked around. "Still no better ideas?" Naomi exhaled. "Nope, as much as I wish that weren't the case." Jax hunched his shoulders. "Here we go, then." He walked across the street toward Hasim's. Naomi followed, watching as a delivery van backed up to the side of a convenience store down the block. The hover truck rocked slightly as it moved. It made a pitiful-sounding beeping as it reversed. A heavy-set man with skin nearly the same shade of brown as the coffee mugs at the diner walked out of a small office. "Can I help you too?" Naomi put on a smile as she clutched Jax's hand. "Hi, we're looking to rent 2 skimmers." She added some uncertainty to her voice. The man eyed them both up and down suspiciously. Jax was about to try to add to the story when the man, presumably Hasim, clapped his hands. "Wonderful! I was worried that with all the hullabaloo going on at the stockyard, opening today would be a waste." He smiled broadly. Jax exchanged a look with Naomi, then shrugged. "Come, friends, let's get you set up with your rentals." He turned to head back into the building. "Where are you two thinking of heading? The Plains? Lover's Overlook?" He waggled a finger. "There is a cleaning deposit." Naomi pantomimed a vomiting motion. They followed the rotund man into the building. As they entered, Naomi slowed down and ran a hand along one of the 4-limbed walker vehicles. Her arm glowed blue as she interfaced with the device. She repeated the motion on a 3-wheeled vehicle, likely designed for getting around the city on. Hasim sat down behind a desk covered in papers and tablets. He pushed tablets out of his way. He gestured. Sit, this won't take long. You'll soon be airborne and on your way." He craned his neck to look back outside. "Looks like the weather plans to cooperate." Naomi gently moved a pile of what looked like rental slips and invoices from the seat to the floor, then sat down. Hasim opened his mouth to say something, but was cut off by a clatter from the showroom area where one of his rentals appeared to be going berserk. He looked at his 2 customers, then the commotion. "I will be right back." He leapt from his chair faster than Jax would have thought a man his size could move. Several expletives in a language Jax did not recognize came from the showroom area. The 3-wheeled vehicle leapt from the garage area to collide with the delivery vehicle that was servicing the convenience store. The driver immediately began shouting and waving Hasim over. The poor man looked at his 3-wheeler, then at the stilted walker as it crushed a trash receptacle on the street corner before harassing a bus full of people. Naomi watched the action, then stood up. "Let's go. I told that walker thing to stomp around, then head off down the street doing as much damage as it can. If it's not stuck, 3-wheeler is going to take off in the opposite direction shortly." They exited the office slowly, looking for any sign of Hasim. He was already near the street, trying to corral the wayward walker. "Let's go." Jax and Naomi crept around the back of the single-story building. They could still hear Hasim shouting. Out back, they found a row of sleek-winged craft parked in a row. They were all garishly painted with neon colors and stripes and zigzags. Each skimmer featured a cockpit in which the pilot lay prone, surrounded by a transparent shell. All the skimmers' cockpits were open, like clamshells. The main fuselage of the sleek craft featured a swept-back wing design, with articulated turbofans set in each wide wing. A small grav lift was embedded in the lower section of the body to assist in maneuvering. Jax looked the lightweight vehicles over. He turned to Naomi. "Think you can fly one?" She shrugged. "Only one way to find out. There must be an RI installed or something." She gestured to the nimble-looking craft. "They can't let any yahoo with no piloting skills climb into these willy-nilly." She looked at the nearest craft. "Can they?" Jax quirked an eyebrow. "Any yahoo, huh?" She made a rude gesture, then turned to a different skimmer, a bright purple one. As she got situated on the foam platform, the two halves of the cockpit closed. The entire assembly slid back toward the main body of the fuselage. From somewhere inside the cockpit with her, a voice said, "Hello, I am your flight assistant. There are many available options depending on your skill level." Naomi cut the basic intelligence off. "I'm not a pilot. I need all the help you can give." She reached out to touch the main console, her hand glowing. Jax approached one of the open cockpits and crawled in. Once situated and comfortable on the foam platform, he found the canopy control. As the two transparent halves closed, the entire cockpit slid backwards into the body of the skimmer. The fuselage unfolded as the craft powered up, wings hinging down to lock into position. He looked over at Naomi and gave a thumbs up. She returned the gesture. As Jax taxied his skimmer away from the others, a voice said, "Hello, I am your flight assistant. Would you like me to handle takeoff?" Jax shook his head. "Nope, disable all flight assistants." "Very well. You need only say, 'Flight Assist,' to re-engage my services." He pushed the throttle all the way forward. The powerful turbofans roared as the skimmer leapt into the air. From her skimmer, Naomi watched Jax soar into the air. She looked to the side just in time to see Hasim jogging towards her, a tablet in one hand. She quickly reached out and touched the primary control module again, accessing its primitive systems, disabling the remote kill switch. "Get us airborne and fly," she said out loud. "Very well," the RI replied. She concentrated on the control systems of her skimmer, finding the software controls for the wireless networking gear. "Hey, what the hell?" Jax exclaimed over their comm channel. Ahead, his skimmer was banking in a wide arc back towards the rental facility. Naomi closed her eyes. Her tattoos glowed brightly, all of them. Using the networking gear in her own skimmer, she reached out to Jax's. It was easy to disable the recall functions and then enable a rudimentary firewall. It would not keep a determined hacker out, but would most definitely keep Hasim out long enough. "You're good," she said out loud. "Thanks." His skimmer circled back to be alongside hers. "I didn't know your tattoo magic worked long distance." She sighed. "It doesn't. But my skimmer and yours are on the same network, so well, it's not fun or easy. We're good now. I threw up some simple firewalls." "Fair enough. Thanks." He waggled his skimmer's wings, then shot off ahead of her. The sun was low in the sky now.